With the 29th pick of the 2025 NFL Draft, the Washington Commanders take Josh Conerly Jr., offensive tackle, Oregon. We've got our instant reaction right here. Let's go.
I'm a pretty bad
Greetings and salutations, and welcome to our instant reaction here on Ref the District after the Washington Commanders bolstered the offensive line, taking offensive tackle Josh Conerly Jr. out of Oregon to be your newest commander. I'm Nathan. That's Trev. Stoner said he's really old. He has a real job and he has to go to bed, although he is going off in the group chat right now. So he looking forward to his not so instant reaction. This is our instant reaction. Literally just created the graphics as soon as the name was picked, came on here. Whether or not you like the pick, make sure you like this video for the effort of us staying up late and getting this out to you. We appreciate you doing that. Make sure you also sub to the channel and that you share it so that way other people can either celebrate and or commiserate, depending on where you are. As you can see from my esteemed colleague over there, Trev, you don't seem too happy about this pick.
To be honest, I'm not. And that's maybe because I'm spoiled from the season ago when we made an appearance in the NFC Championship and got blown out, flat out embarrassed by our divisional rival in the Philadelphia Eagles, eventual Super Bowl champions. Whole off season. Heck, even during the season, we talked about the draft coming up and what we need. And it was clear as day we need edge rushers. A lot of this fan base was blindsided by the 11.5 sacks by Dante Fowler, but I wasn't blindsided by the rough and unnecessary roughness on the quarterback penalties that cost us potentially some games or put us in bad position in some games. That's cool. He got 11.5 sacks, but it's Dante Fowler Jr., who's no longer with us. That production didn't mean anything because he's gone to Dallas. So whole offseason, us as a podcast here, like edge rusher, cornerback maybe, edge rusher, cornerback maybe, and then maybe cornerback or edge rusher. So instead, we go out and get Josh Conerly Jr., an offensive tackle out of Oregon, who is basically a Brandon Coleman in the first round. Okay? I haven't done too much on this dude yet because never heard of him until today, this exact 5 minutes ago. But what I've read, he's very athletic. He's big, lacks strength to really, be a starter. Some places said he's a day one. Most places I saw, he's not a day one. They said the same thing about Brandon Coleman. Okay, I get we need to beef the offensive line. I get it. Jaden Daniels is our franchise, literally. But you can do that in this draft tomorrow, round 3, 4, 5, because we still have Laramie Tunsil, who we went out and got. He'll play left or right, probably left because that's Jaden's blind side. Then you got Allegretti. Then you got Badass in the center. Then you got Wiley or Coleman at guard, and then Wiley or Coleman at tackle, and waiting for Sam Cosmi's return to come back. Plus, you have Michael Dieter, who's a depth guy too. And my point is, you could have addressed this depth later in this draft. What was lacking since game 1 was our quarterback pressure. Like I said, Dante Fowler stats mean nothing. Our quarterback pressure was awful. We let Baker Mayfield look like the first-round pick he was on his 4th or 5th team this year. We almost lost to the Saints because we had no quarterback pressure, and I believe their quarterback was Spencer Rattler and then Jake Hayner, and we barely beat them. Okay, so it's obvious we were lacking edge, and we go out and we praise Adam Peters for letting him cook. Let him cook. And he had a chance to cook first round, and in my opinion, he burnt this one. Or he either burnt it or he didn't cook it well enough. And I'm going to go with not well enough. It's raw because of the player, the caliber of the player we got, a raw guy.
So most everywhere that I'm seeing as far as the big boards are concerned, it wasn't that much of a reach. So it's not like we're saying, I don't think either of us are kind of shocked and or disappointed because it's necessarily a reach. You are a needs-based drafter. and there was some needs out there. You had Will Johnson on the bowl. Maxwell
Mm,
Hairston was the very next pick
mm,
to the Bills.
mm,
You have Izaraku and Mike
mm.
Green still out there as edge rushers. Iman Mori as a safety and a physically gifted specimen still out there as well. I thought that they were in prime position also to trade back. There was a bunch of names on here that I was just like, oh, people might trade up for this, or Washington at the very least is going to get their guy. Well, their guy happens to be one of the offensive tackles. Is actually one of the linemen that we didn't talk about.
Yeah.
Missing our top 5 linemen. But this is something that I feel Washington, you always beef up the line. Look at who the Giants picked up today. They got Abdul Carter. Okay. You have the Eagles front that is scary. Dallas's front is aging, but they still have Micah Parsons. And so, I mean, you need to beef up the offensive line. Where Conerly Jr. fits in is going to be intriguing to me. He only started at left tackle
Yeah.
for the Ducks, for the Oregon Ducks. So maybe he shifts inside. Maybe he takes Allegretti's spot, who I know that's one of the reasons why Stoner's mad, because he's a big
sure.
Allegretti guy. But or he moves to right tackle, but Coleman was being talked about going to right tackle. But we say this all the time, Trev. Don't listen to what they say, watch what they do. Maybe they're not as high on Brandon Coleman after 1 year and they wanted to do something. But again, this offensive line needed help. The offense was top 5 in most stats, right? And the defense was poor, and that's why we thought going defense was the right move. But I much rather take an offensive lineman over a wide receiver, over a running back. I know this makes our friend of the channel, Gus Bus, really happy because he talked about taking an offensive lineman. And Conerly is one of the most athletics. He had the fastest 10-yard split for an offensive lineman. He ranks, according to the next gen stats, he was the 6th most athletic offensive tackle through the combine scores. So it seems he lacks strength, and he, there's question about whether or not he's going to be on the outside, but we don't need a left tackle. I will say that he's 21. It says here, overview from the NFL, Trev, 2-year starter whose in-season improvement and performance against Penn State's Abdul Carter make it easier to project his future. Isn't it a good thing to protect Jaden Daniels? How about this potentially improves the run game?
Nathan, we need to go get the quarterback. Okay. We saw what Jaden Daniels can do with the makeshift O-line. I'm not saying this is addressing the O-line is you should definitely do it in the draft. But my biggest gripe is, why did we do it in the first round after we addressed that in the offseason with Larry Tunsil? Now we have to talk about a Brandon Coleman versus Josh Conerly Jr. battle for who starts or who doesn't start.
Could knock Allegretti out.
You could, but he's got Super Bowl caliber. I don't think Jaden Daniels will let that happen anyway. But anyways, I just don't. We waited till 11:30 to select Josh Conerly Jr., who lacks strength and started 14 games at left tackle at a position that we addressed already with a already proven Pro Bowler, not a projected one. Yeah, cool, he went up against Abdul Carter, but Abdul Carter's just as raw as him. They're both rookies. Is he going to do that against Kayvon Thibodeau? Is he going to do that against the entire defensive line against Philly, like you said? We play the Chiefs this year. They got Chris Jones. Hello. We play other teams outside the division this year with some pretty good defensive lines. So, like, Is he really gonna be able to step in day one and take over? No offense, I'm pulling a stoner right now. But if something freaky happens in the offseason, we're relying on this guy now to step in and fill in for a starter because we took him at
At
day
pick
one.
29, he probably is the starter at some place on the line.
This is crazy to me right now.
So
I'm just not happy.
I
wanted
taking
an
a
edge.
young big dude. I mean, this guy, from everything I'm reading right now, his footwork, his athleticness, like he is, he's going to be able to move. If we were
17 sacks, 10 games, like we talked about before we jumped on.
Yeah. I like the pick.
I
I'm
know you
shocked by
do.
the pick. I'm shocked by the pick, but yeah, I'm hard pressed to not like an offensive lineman.
I can't
You
get on
got to
board.
build up the trenches.
Yeah,
You
but
got
not
to
in the
build up the
first
trenches.
round.
Now, I thought that we were going to focus on the other side of the trenches, and Mike
Yeah,
Green was there, and
that's what I'm
Izaraku was
saying.
there, who,
Don't
by
pick
the way,
this.
they are still there.
All right, so what pick do we have next? Number 60 something?
61. I was really team trade back. I really thought that you were going to be able to get someone to come in. Kansas City's picking right now to finish out the first round. The
took
Eagles
Jihad
traded up to take Jihad Campbell out of Alabama,
Wow.
taking the
Like
top
they-
linebacker off the board.
Like they
But
need him.
yeah, let's see if I can't figure out
I'm just so
who they take there before we move on. But there's still options in day 2 for Washington. I'm okay if the draft is spent bolstering place. We said this before, Trev. Every position outside of left tackle, the quarterback, and Sam Cosme are probably Tunsil, Daniels, and Cosme. Pretty much the only positions that aren't at risk. And here you go. You improve one of those members on the line. How is that a bad thing?
How do we know we improved it?
I mean, you have to assume that's why you're taking a guy like this, is because you don't know that Mike Green or Izaraku are an improvement over the pass rushers currently on.
Yes, they are.
You say that, but you don't know that. That's the point.
Can you agree with me on that?
You don't know that even if Abdul Carter is better because he hasn't played it down in the NFL. I'm saying let's let this play out a little bit.
I can't.
But be happy. Be happy.
I'm happy we addressed it. I'm with you on that.
Protecting Jaden Daniels, how's that a bad thing?
It's not. I just don't like wasting it at 29 when we had players that could actually help us literally tomorrow rather than going to get a guy we have to develop and get his strength up and find out if he can play guard. What if he can't play guard? What if he only can play tackle?
I just want to point out the last pick of the first round is in, and it's Josh Simmons, offensive tackle out of Ohio State. So Kansas City even going with an offensive lineman there.
They need that because Pat Mahomes literally runs for his life every game.
He was
like worse than Jaden. He looks like frantic. It's a difference. Jaden's gliding. Patrick's like,
yeah. I would like to see Jaden Daniels throwing from the pocket more. I would like to see our running game be more impactful outside of his scrambles. You can't take away the scrambles because that's what makes him special. But how about you stop him running for his life, which we saw some of the best images this year, Trav, were him dodging tackles at his feet.
Oh, yeah.
But those were on scrambles because the offensive line can't block.
So
Let's block.
Now we got a left tackle that we don't need.
He'll probably. I'm interested where he's going on the line. If I had to take a guess, he's taking Allegretti's spot.
I think he's taking Coleman's spot for real. I think Allegretti might stay.
I think it's easier to move. I mean, I guess it does. It's going to be interesting, but
see,
I'm good with it.
Do you see what we're doing right now? This is my point exactly. We have no idea where the hell he's going to fit in on the offensive line. But instead, we pass on two guys that, sure enough, were just
I called it
Plug and
on
play.
Flagship this past Wednesday. I said Adam Peters is going to take a guy we have not been talking about. I said it.
You're a guru.
I said it, and that's exactly what happened. Every time, Trev, every time we think we've locked in and we think we understand and something is going on, he zigs and zags on us.
Right.
And
You're right.
Up to this point, he's had one miss, right?
Yeah.
Mike Davis, as a free agent, was the one miss. You know, the draft picks were still, you know, they contributed in some form or fashion last year. I know some people aren't as high on Johnny Newton as I am. I know some people really think Ben Sinnott is now a miss because he didn't really do much. But at least they're still excited about him. Be excited about Josh Conerly today.
I can't.
Folks. Do some research, watch some tape, come back, be more excited. We're going to have maybe a couple more of these. Maybe after day 2, after day 3, we can get some more content out. If not, do expect some content from us on Monday. This was our instant reaction. This is how we're feeling. Of course, I'm a positive Perry over here. I'm Nathan.
I'm a sour stores over here.
And he's a sour stores on Ref the District. We appreciate you. And until next time, be a fan.